today's episode of The Unwritten Rule. We have more news. We've got some basketball scheduling stuff we're going to talk about. We've got some football we're going to talk about. A new quarterback offer. I don't really think talking about new offers is crazy important for the 2026 class at the moment, but everyone loves talking about quarterbacks. So we're going to talk about this guy who got an offer from Mizzou, and we have a big official visitors weekend coming up starting Friday when you're listening to this show. So we're going to take a glimpse at that, just talk about who will be on campus, names to watch, all that fun stuff. And then we have another Luther Burden Award, unfortunately, that we have to mention. But we'll skim through that quickly. But yeah, some basketball schedule stuff. They got another non-con opponent, so we'll just update where their schedule's at and preview, like I said, the big official visit weekend for Mizzou football. Then we got quick hits. We're going to talk some NBA finals. Going to talk some roasting of Arkansas, a little bit more Mizzou in there. We've got some beer conversation at the end of the show. So all sorts of stuff for you to kick off your, end of June weekend. We're almost in July. This month has flown by. But yeah, like I said, good Mizzou segment, some NBA finals talk, bunch of stuff to dive into. So we'll take you right to it. The Unwritten Rule starts right now.
Marcel, where are you going with that disc? You are not putting that on again. Marcel, okay, if you press that button, you are in very, very big trouble.
Attention. Everybody stop what you're doing. It's time for The Unwritten Rule, a Mizzou sports podcast brought to you by the Believe Network, alongside Peyton Haverman and Kenny Van Doren. Here is your host, Jack Knowlton.
Welcome back to The Unwritten Rule. Today is Friday, June 21st. And by the time you're listening to this show, a flock of official visitors have made it to Mizzou's campus, which we'll talk about in a second. But we are going to start the show, Peyton and Kenny, with a little quarterback talk, a little 2026 quarterback talk. We haven't, with the 2026 class still being far away, we're obviously, Mizzou is still developing their 2025 class. We've talked about that at length here this summer because the Tigers have done a very good job on the recruiting trail there, which, like I said, we'll get to with this final OV weekend. But everyone loves a quarterback offer. Everyone loves seeing blessed to receive an offer from the Missouri Tigers when it says 4 or 5-star quarterback. And that's what happened with the Missouri Tigers the other day with a guy named Michael Clayton II, a 4-star quarterback in the class of 2026. He plays for Seminole High School in Sanford, Florida. I did not look up where in Florida that is. Maybe based on Seminole, it's in the north near Tallahassee, Florida State. I don't know. That doesn't really matter that much other than the fact that he did get a Mizzou offer, called it a tier 1 offer, which I think is further impressive considering he already has 26 of them. His recruitment's obviously going to pick up steam. But we love a good quarterback offer. And, obviously Matt Zollers is picking up a ton of buzz right now. The Elite 11 in the 2025 class. Mizzou looks like they got a home run there. Already a 5-star by On 3, high-end 4-star by other services. This guy, Michael Clayton, a high-end 4-star as well. So Peyton, Kenny, Mizzou looking good in their long-term replacement maybe of Brady Cook if they can, stay ahead in this race for Mr. Michael Clayton II.
Yeah, they're always looking ahead at the quarterback position. It always is a huge priority. Zollers they got early in the fold for the 2025 class. Of course, you look at the past few years, they always seem to really lock in on one guy, and they normally will get a commitment out of someone they really make a big push for. Daniel Kalen, of course, did commit to Mizzou. Then he flipped to Nebraska. Just a very weird recruitment with him there. But then they got Aiden Glover. You can keep going back. You look at Sam Horn. Drinkwitz is always looking at like one kind of key figure to kind of build the class around a bit. And the quarterback is the best position to do that. And Michael Clayton, obviously, they like him. They got him. I believe it was a visit that he had where the offer came out of. So obviously they're making Michael Clayton a very early and very big priority.
You can never have enough depth at that position either. I think that's very obvious, especially this upcoming season with Sam Horn out as he recovers from Tommy John surgery. And you see quarterbacks leave all the time, especially in this era with the different transfer portal rules. You lost 4-star Gabari Johnson this past winter. It's just something that happens, and you just want that next guy up. It's nothing against who Aiden Glover is or Matt Zoller. It's just every class you need a quarterback. You need depth at that position. You need the future because guys will miss. You see, even a couple years ago with Tyler Macon, it just didn't work out. And he was a high-end recruit as well. So it's just you got to get that one guy in the class every cycle, and you just have to mold him under your own program and get him early. And that's what Peyton was saying there. With that visit, he did get the offer on the visit on June 17th. But kind of looking forward as well. There are some good offers on here, especially in the SEC with Arkansas, Auburn, even some Big Ten schools, Illinois, Iowa, Maryland, ACC schools, Louisville, Miami. I mean, there's a lot of guys coming after Michael Clayton. It's early in his recruitment as well. I know the class of 2026, recruiting windows kind of adjusted this summer. So there's a lot more on the table coming from Michael Clayton.
Yeah, he's 6'4", 195. We were joking before he came on air. Gotta put some meat on those bones. He's a string.
He's 200.
Is he 200? Okay.
Yes.
Well,
if that makes any difference, I know recruits sometimes will always.
That does in your mind. If when it jumps over 200, you're like, oh, that's fine.
Big kid. But there's always, you'll see this too with recruits on Twitter, that what's in their bio is always 5 pounds or an inch taller than what websites will say about them.
Yeah, it gets very NBA draft combine where they're like, well, I'm technically 6'4", 3/4, but they didn't let me stand right. Otherwise, I would have been listed at 6'5", or weigh this or that. But
Sanford is also north of Orlando, so it's not near Florida State.
Tallahassee. All right. I was trying to make a connection there, but it didn't work. I don't know. I pulled up a little bit of his film. I think it's always intriguing. Obviously, a guy, playing varsity football when you're a quarterback as a sophomore, is always exciting. So I think this will be a name to watch going forward for Mizzou. I think, when you talk timeline in terms of, like Kenny said, it's things kind of got shook up with the class of 2026. They changed, obviously, the signing date for 2025, the early one in December. So everything kind of got moved around. So it's been interesting seeing 2026 recruiting, but obviously Mizzou is, doing their due diligence early. We'll see when Clayton maybe gets back to campus next. The, next opportunity for him, considering he just visited, would probably be at the end of July when the dead period ends, because there's going to be one here starting, I think, on Tuesday. I believe it's June 25th, and then it runs for the next month. So with that in mind, obviously, Mizzou is trying to cram in a lot of visits in the 2025 class, continue this momentum that they've done, that they've had. And so, I think boys, we should take a look at some of these guys, some of these visits that we're seeing. There's going to be a bunch of guys on campus here this weekend, starting when you're listening to this from Friday, June 21st through Sunday. This is what a lot of schools tend to do. It seems is like this is their big official visit weekend. This is the last weekend you can get kids on campus before the dead period, like I've said. So Peyton, Kenny, I'll throw it over to you. You guys can run through this list. If you're watching on the YouTube, obviously you see it in front of you. First name, of course, I think that you're the most excited to see is Matt Zollers will be back. That's when he's taking his official visit. So kind of the headliner there, but who are some other names of these? I believe it's 9 official visitors coming to Columbia here this weekend. Peyton, we can't hear you. He's muted.
Stupid microphone came unplugged. Anyways, the 3 biggest names are most certainly the 3 that are right below Zollers on the list if you're watching on the YouTube. That's Donovan Olugbode, Jayvan Boggs, and Corey Sims. All 3 are receivers. Do I think Mizzou will land all 3? Absolutely not, but it'd be nice to be able to land maybe 2 of those. Obviously, Boggs and Sims are 2 guys that we've kind of discussed like to death at this point.
They've been on at least 2 thumbnails in the last month. I can tell you that for the YouTube. At least two.
Definitely. And I mean, like, this is definitely like the bigger weekend for Mizzou recruiting. It's not quite to the level of last season where they had about 50 recruits on campus in one June weekend, including one area, and they wound up getting like 30 commitments in the days that followed. Hopefully, you see a couple commitments after this. Sims commits on June 30th, I believe. So you will probably have a resolution with him really quickly. Boggs is down to Mizzou or UCF if his Twitter is to be believed. So could have a couple decisions there.
It's always good to have the commits on campus. Zollers, Dayton Hopkins will be there. Dante McClellan, Jason Dowell. It's always good to have those guys on campus. Let these other recruits know what the culture is like, know what they've committed to. Like Peyton said, with Boggs and Sims coming close to those decisions, what's that last impression you can give to these high schoolers that, this is the place to be. Get here on campus early, commit to us early, help us build out the class, doing your own recruitment. Who do you want to play with? Who else do you want on that offense? Who do you want on your defense? So that you're not trailing in some of these games later down the road in the next couple seasons. So it's just always good to have those guys around. Another guy, Mark Manfred, 3-star corner out of Georgia, will be there. And then a Wisconsin commit, Nolan Davenport, who's an offensive tackle. I also saw that Jack Lang will also be on campus. So it's probably good to have some tackles in the mix and kind of talking to these other offensive guys that might be considering Mizzou.
Yeah, I think you make a good point with the commitments. I mean, I guess we said them all, but I'll run through all 9 of them just so everyone is clear who'll be in town. So the commits, like Kenny just said, Zollers, Dayton Hopkins, Dante McClellan, Jason Dowell, and then everybody else mentioned. Kenny, the Wisconsin commit, Nolan Davenport, Mark Manfred, corner out of Georgia. Davenport's an offensive lineman, and then Corey Sims, Jayvan Boggs, Donovan Olugbode, all wide receivers. Boggs and Olugbode are from Florida. Corey Sims would be an in-state out of St. Louis. So I think it's just fun. Like you have so many just exciting names here. I mean, these are 4 stars, even some of them high-end 4 stars. Matt Zoller's based on his Elite 11 performances, which I think we can touch on. I'm sure people have seen on Twitter. He's at the Elite 11. Seems like he's doing pretty well. I think he led or was in the top 3, I want to say, after the first day.
I think he was 6th. I saw the number 6 somewhere. I haven't been following the competition aspect too much. I've just been looking at clips of Zollers throwing.
It's not. I mean, that's all there really is to follow. No one's really scrutinizing it if you're not, there. But he's performing well there. I think there's a chance he could be a 5-star on all platforms when it's all said and done. There's obviously still a long way to go. There's some more eval periods left, but I mean, Boggs is great. Corey Sims is great. This is just a fun group, and I hope Mizzou gets several commits out of this. So
Zollers wasn't ranked after day 2 going into the final day. I'm still looking at the rankings.
I thought I saw he was high, but maybe
he was. Peyton was right. He was 6th after the day 1 festivities, and then he wasn't ranked after day 2.
All right, well there you go. I put my Mizzou blinders on. That's poor. I just saw Matt Zollers and all the other names went away on the list. I did see a good ratio the other day. Someone said that they were evaluating Zollers and said he didn't have the best arm strength, and I think it was Barstool Mizzou. I apologize for whoever I can't give this credit. Quote tweeted with a video of him throwing like a 60-yard pass. So I love that this kid's not even going to be on campus for another whole year basically, and there's already the Zollers defenders. But yeah, I mean, to bring it all full circle with recruiting with a guy like Michael Clayton, I mean, you see it like Matt Zollers has a chance to talk to 3 good wide receivers and say, this, I'll be your quarterback. This is why you should come here. We should, team up, play together. Like having a quarterback is just very, very vital in terms of recruiting, especially, your kind of offensive skill positions. Do you, if you're the coaching staff, put Zollers, Olugbode, Boggs, Sims, just put them at the 50 on Faroe and let them run some routes and just see who connects the best, and that's who you take.
That would be one heck of a way to recruit.
I think they should. I think you make it combine style.
Zollers is trying to recruit all of them. So.
That's true. I guess you'd be fine with all 3. And we still have Prez next year, guys. I'm excited for Prez. James Madison. It's gonna rock. Yeah, good moves for Mizzou on the recruiting trail. We'll obviously, see what comes out of this next official visit weekend here coming up. Before we talk some basketball quickly, we have an award to give out again for Luther Burden. Look at that. He's on another preseason All-American list. Now, okay, so he's on 3. He's on the All-Thon Sports and Phil Steele, which I believe we've talked about both of those already. But so this third one's a little bit more fun because it is a friend. He also made the PFF All-American team. Congratulations to Luther Burden.
Walker.
You're an All-American before games started.
I think we may have actually talked about the All-SEC ones for Athlon and Phil Steele. So there you go. All-American. We don't need to touch on this any more than that. Luther Burden is good if you didn't know.
I do like this graphic if you're looking on the YouTube.
Yeah, it's great.
It's a good graphic. Congrats to Luther Burden. He'll get, I'm sure, on more lists before the season starts. We'll touch on them just like we are right now. All right, moving on. Basketball. We got some men's basketball to talk about. Schedules. Mizzou added another non-con game. The Tigers, Peyton and Kenny, are playing Eastern Washington here next season. I don't think I wrote the date down in my notes, so I have to pull the tweet up briefly. November 11th, that game will happen. It is a buy game, $100,000 guarantee. I always hate when they tweet what the actual amount is because that just, I feel like, is a recipe for disaster. But, gentlemen, you know the question I'm going to ask. When is the last time Mizzou played Eastern Washington?
No idea.
2004.
I would say never.
Okay.
Never.
I will say going forward, every time I do this, if it is never, I will still ask you the question. So never is always an answer.
Then I'm going to say never.
Okay. Kenny?
2004.
2004. Mizzou and Eastern Washington last played in the 1988-89 season.
That was the closest.
That's
Yeah.
closest. This is in the Show Me Classic in Columbia. Missouri won 81-68. So they will be playing their second all-time meeting. This is my new favorite game with these random non-cons. The Tigers, in addition to Eastern Washington on the 11th, will play Memphis November 4th, Lindenwood November 27th, Cal in the ACC SEC Challenge on December the 3rd, Illinois on December 22nd, and they will also play Pacific, Minnesota, and Kansas. There are not dates set for those games. Excuse me. Thoughts on just the non-con schedule coming together for Mizzou?
Pretty standard so far. By games, a couple Power Fives or high majors in there. This one is whatever. I mean, last year Eastern Washington, they won the Big Sky regular season, did not win their conference tournament, so they weren't in the NCAA tournament. They lost their head coach to Washington State, so it's kind of it's a whatever. It's a game Mizzou should absolutely not lose. So yeah,
Mizzou's it's got some ties out west right now. 2 teams in California coming to Mizzou, and then a team in Washington.
What do you mean? What do you mean, Kenny? Cal is in the ACC. They're on the Atlantic coast.
They are on the Atlantic coast, but for some reason they play on the Pacific coast.
Yeah, weird.
The two bodies of water merge at some point, so maybe there's a little bit of ACC water out there on the West Coast. But I do like this. I think it's cool just to always have just different teams coming through and not just small teams from Arkansas, small teams from Missouri, or something, dipping your feet into Kansas and getting a game out of there. This is a fun thing. It's always cool to me just to see this. And I always wish like we were on campus for some of these games just to say you saw Eastern Washington play basketball, because I can probably confidently say I'll probably never see Eastern Washington ever play a basketball game in person.
All right,
there was something just kind of magical about the blood donor slate in Dennis Gates's first year, where they just kind of sacrificed. Yeah, Mississippi Valley came to campus. They had Coastal Carolina like the day before Thanksgiving. I had to drive to Columbia just for that game so I could get my points for the Kansas game.
Which didn't matter.
Yeah, which wound up not being that worth it at all. But it was a good ploy to get people to go to the game. Houston Baptist. Oh my God, that Houston Baptist game. Southern Indiana. Penn was the one I couldn't go to. I still missed the Penn game.
Penn and Southern Indiana had two of maybe my favorite mid-major guards ever I watched in person, which was Penn had a guy who dropped like 25 named Jordan Dingle, and Southern Indiana had a dude named Isaiah Swope who played for Indiana State last year. That team that almost went to the tournament. He was really
and
good.
Dingle transferred up as well. I forget
Mhm.
where, but he did.
I think he's at St. John's.
That
with
sounds
Patino.
right. I think you're right.
So that's always fun. You get to look at maybe those players before they go big time.
Yeah, Coastal Carolina had a center that transferred up to TCU.
Was it Hassan? Was that his last name?
Some
Something?
Mustafa or something
Mustafa.
like that.
That's what it was. Yeah. Those games were always fun to scout. So I guess we'll do the same with some of these. What would be the dream for you two? The dream low major team to play? We were talking about this on air.
SIUE. Oh my gosh, we have a burgeoning rivalry with SIUE. We got to keep it going. I mean, we've scheduled them the past 2 years.
Missouri
In
State.
an era where college realignment or just conference realignment is just wrecking college rivalries, it's good that Mizzou is keeping something sacred going there. So I'm gonna go ahead and say
SIUE.
SIUE.
I think mine would be playing at Rice. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Rice's basketball gym. It might have been upgraded since then, but it's
Can you
as small
Google it?
as it's really small. It looks like my high school gym.
Oh, I think I've seen it. Kenny's Googling. This is a good podcasting.
It's
We're
not even
podcasting.
the Tudor Field House.
We're podcasting.
Oh wow, look at
Oh,
that.
geez. Yeah, that is small.
It gets raucous in Tudor.
The Tudor House, is that what it's called? Tudor
Field
Pavilion?
House.
Tudor Field House.
Field House. Yeah, that would be terrible. Thankfully, we don't have a UMass situation in basketball because they schedule year by year. My dream would be Grand Canyon on the road. Go to Grand Canyon.
There is
fake
no
fans.
reason any high major would ever do that.
They would lose. Grand Canyon is the best home court advantage in college
I also
basketball.
like that we're discussing this segment of the schedule in particular when the Illinois game got officially scheduled this past week.
We talked about the date.
I know,
I said-
but
I said
this
the
is
date.
what we're spending more
Coleman
time
Hawkins
on.
isn't there anymore, Peyton. It doesn't matter. Mizzou's gonna
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't really.
breaks
That's
off
like
of him.
my third or fourth most anticipated game, but
Also, Illinois is the same day as it usually is. It's the 22nd. It's just
is it always the 22nd?
Oh, always the 22nd.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
uh,
Are you looking
let's see-
bowl?
let's see-
People bowl traveling? When's the playoff? Yeah. Look
oh
at
wow!
the playoff
Look
games.
at that.
The day
People
before.
could roll straight from a Mizzou home playoff game into St. Louis for a bragging rights game.
I think.
Are there
Gabe
any
tweeted
other
about that.
bowls if Mizzou has a
Nope,
bad
nothing on
year?
the 22nd.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow. So no
Playoff.
Armed Forces Bowl situation this year or Gasparilla Bowl even.
Yeah. What's up, DRF? Yeah.
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 Well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome to the beach era. Living on the
Favorite
beach.
Living on the beach. Quick reminder while we're on schedules as well. Mizzou doesn't have the dates, but they do have their SEC fixtures. They are playing at home Alabama, Arkansas, Kentucky, LSU, Ole Miss, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Texas A&M, and Vanderbilt. Away, they are also playing Arkansas and Vanderbilt and Oklahoma, and then Auburn, Florida, Georgia, Mississippi State, Tennessee, and Texas. In the SEC, we'll get the dates for those games later on in the season. Any way too early game you're most excited for in SEC play, gentlemen? That's what I'll end this with. When you hear those games,
Like which one am I looking forward to the most? Sorry, I was reading
Yes.
another tweet. I mean Arkansas. I want, now that Cal is there and everything, I hate Arkansas as is. It's got to be Arkansas, but that's such an easy answer. I will also say Oklahoma. It'll be kind of fun to see the new blood in the SEC and see them twice. I think that's cool. Also, Oklahoma's not. I don't think Oklahoma's supposed to be that good.
no.
But it'll be the Yaya Keita Bowl. How can you not love that?
That's a good point, Kenny.
I think mine is Texas. It's going to be on the road, so there might be a chance that I can go to that game. It's only about 2 or 3 hours away from me, and I think that's probably the one I'm looking most forward to.
That's a good one. I will say I'm going to say A&M at home. I think that game is going to be really interesting. A&M is a weird team. I know they're a disgusting program, so I think I'm just excited to gear up for that to cheer against Mr. Buzz Communist Williams and his basketball. Gross basketball style. We've talked about him ad nauseum. He will definitely come up again in the wintertime. There you go. There's some scheduling talk. I'm very excited for this men's basketball season. We'll have more men's basketball in a second in quick hits because there was a funny video that I know Peyton's going to bring up. So yeah, we'll segue to that. We got some NBA finals talk, some national stuff, and more Mizzou stuff in quick hits. Okay, quick hits time. We're going to finish off the show. Talk a little NBA Finals. We got jerseys of the week surrounded the NBA Finals. Kenny, what's your jersey of the week?
My jersey of the week goes to Jordan Walsh, bench player for the Boston Celtics, and you might know his name before. And if you're watching on the YouTube, you've seen him before because he was a part of the Arkansas men's basketball team for the 2023 or 2022-2023 season. Yes, very famed class. He was a 5-star. Went to Link Academy. He's originally from Dallas, so it was probably cool for him to win a finals against his hometown team. He actually did get to play in the finals. I know there were some comments on this post from Arkansas asking if he did. He played 5 minutes in one of the games, and plus or minus, you guys want to guess?
Probably the one they lost by 40.
Yes, it was. It was game 4 that he played in. But do you want to guess? Peyton, is plus minus?
What was the final score in that game?
84-122.
That's almost 40. I know. I'm going to say plus 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you add both, wait, did you say plus 3, Jack? Or?
I did.
Okay. Well, it was plus 7. So you guys were right on the ends, right on the ends there.
Closer.
Yeah. Sorry, Jack, but
okay.
Peyton wins this one. You are no longer on the show. You've been relegated.
Shoot.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like if we had this show on this platform, if people were listening back then, I hated that Arkansas team. Anthony Black, Nick Smith, and Jordan Walsh. They were supposed to be like everyone was like, "Oh, this team's going to walk in and win the SEC," and they finished in 10th. And Missouri and their power of friendship finished 4th. So yeah, good for Jordan Walsh, I guess. This is basically that Kendrick Perkins image of him holding the trophies. So
he's just 20. He'll be a part of the next 3 they win.
Let's hope not.
Yeah, I hope not. That'd be horrible. Congrats to the Celtics. Yeah, this final sucked, but we'll go through our jerseys and then we can maybe talk about it a little bit more. Peyton, what's yours?
My jersey, we're going to go on the other side of the battle line rivalry for basketball. I'm going to go with Phil Pressey here because he actually coached against Jordan Walsh when Jordan Walsh was in college, and now they're on the same team winning the NBA Finals together. Phil Pressey, of course, the former very, very good Mizzou guard from some of the golden years in the early 2010s. He was on Dennis Gates' staff, I believe is just a grad assistant in Dennis Gates' first season as Mizzou's head coach. He left this past season to go take a coaching job with the Boston Celtics. Worked out for him pretty well, I'd say. Got more experience in the NBA, and he won an NBA Finals. So yeah, Phil Pressey, NBA champion.
Congrats to him. Congrats to him. That's always, we did this last year. We had the easy one with Michael Porter Jr. Got to get the Mizzou connections to the titles. Yeah, it's cool to see him succeeding as a coach. Like, he's obviously younger in that field, so hopefully he can prosper and stay on the Celtic staff. Maybe he'll take Joe Mazzulla's job. It is also crazy to me that Joe Mazzulla is younger than Al Horford. He's younger than one of his own players.
He was in the same draft class as Kyrie Irving.
Yeah, that's wild. That's so wild. West Virginia legend. All right, I'll do my jersey and then we can talk general finals if we want. To finish the Mizzou connections, I'm giving my jersey of the week to Jaylen Brown. Mizzou connection. If you're watching on the YouTube, you see it. If you don't know this already, Jaylen Brown was coached by former Mizzou head coach Cuonzo Martin at Cal. That's right. Cuonzo Martin taught a future finals MVP everything he knows about basketball. This was making the rounds on all sorts of college basketball Twitter accounts just because I think people thought it was very random that Jaylen Brown played for Cal of all places. but he did go on to win Finals MVP. We love Cuonzo Martin, even though it didn't work out at Mizzou. I wish him the success at Missouri State. But yeah, Jaylen Brown. I mean, we're talking finals. I really thought they were going to figure out a way to give it to Tatum. I'm very happy for Jaylen Brown that he won Finals MVP.
Yeah, no. If you want to be an NBA champion, go play at Mo State for Cuonzo Martin. Who was the other? Didn't Cal have 2 lottery picks that year or 2 draft picks? There was someone else on that Cal team, and
yeah,
I
there
can't
was.
Who it was.
I don't remember either off the top of my head, but yeah, he had some dogs.
Yeah, so I'm sure Jaylen Brown had a text from Coach Martin on his phone after the finals, congratulating him. Hopefully, they still aren't in touch. I mean, it seems like most of the players that played for Cuonzo Martin love him. So
yeah. And then the finals, I mean, just bad. I was
not a good finals, that's for sure.
The aura
Tyrone
of
Wallace.
It. Oh, okay. Where was
that
he
was
picked?
the other pick. Atlanta.
Nice.
I thought it was a better pick than that. I'm not gonna lie.
Never heard of him.
He was a round 2 pick by the Utah Jazz, actually, but he played for Atlanta.
Right.
Yeah, I was very disappointed. I've enjoyed the discourse about the aura of the finals, them taking the finals logo off. There's too many commercials. ESPN just has been butchering the broadcast of it. And the games, I don't know, the games have just been bad. I mean, the Mavs won a game by 40. You know, the series was never really all that close. I don't know if you guys, how much finals did you guys even watch?
Very little. I'm not gonna lie to you. I did not watch any of Game 5 at all. Yeah, I can't even tell you a lot about what happened. I just didn't watch much of it. The only thing I really think will be kind of remembered was just some of the Luka discourse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Brian Windhorst.
Mm-hmm.
I watched Game 3 from the beginning into the end, and that was it. I mean, I kind of lost the love for NBA a while ago, but even people would rag on the Warriors and Cavs playing each other every year. Those were some of the best finals, and it's hard to argue that. It was just close games, things you'll remember, not like Jason Tatum copying people after the game and trying to be KG and then trying to be Kobe.
Yeah, that was tough. He will never escape those allegations. He is forever a copycat. Yeah, I don't know. I would like to see just a return to the older finals, or I don't know why they ever got rid of the old music. There's just things with it. I feel so old saying all this stuff, even though we're not. But like, you're right, Kenny. I mean, those Cavs Warriors squads were loaded. They had the best talent in the NBA going head to head. I still think, there's a lot of people who don't even think Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown are like top 5 players, but they won a championship because their team is just crazy deep. But I guess congrats to them. I hope this is their only title. And Boston also, but like Boston just wins too much. What is it like?
Yep.
How many titles?
Yeah.
What do they have since it's like a bunch of titles since 2000?
20
like
plus.
a crazy amount.
Too many.
They now have the most NBA titles of any franchise. They passed the Lakers.
Past the Lakers, banner 18. So I get, which franchise do you guys dislike more, the Lakers or the Celtics?
Lakers.
I think Celtics.
I don't really care for either. I'm not gonna lie. They're both Showtime. They're both classic, but I don't really care for either of them. I couldn't give you a firm answer on one or the other. I don't really care enough to dislike one or the other more.
I'll say Celtics. There you go. There's finals talk. Not much to talk about because it wasn't that exciting. Hopefully next year is a little bit better. Oh yeah, I did want to touch on this with my jersey. I did think it was funny. Joe Mazzulla, the Celtics coach, if you paid attention at all, he has an obsession with the movie The Town, and then he also was apparently watching Batman, and that scene specifically where he's interrogating Joker. I didn't even read this full quote, actually, when I sent this to you. We're watching the scene where Batman goes into the interrogation room with Joker. Batman goes, "What, do you want to kill me?" And the Joker starts laughing at him. "I don't want to kill you. I need you. You complete me. It was the coolest moment of good and evil to have coexist. Differences coexist in order to bring the best out of each other." He is the
Celtics. I dislike the Celtics more.
Joe Mazzulla, my favorite quote ever is how he talked about how he wants to weaponize time when they won a series early. and it's like they have extra time off, and people do the whole like, oh, maybe too much time off is a bad thing. And he was like, no, we have to weaponize time. He's a coach. He's a coach. He's got his ways.
Right.
He said during this interview that other teams already have an advantage on the next season and they're already behind after they just won the finals. He's awesome. I love Joe Mazzulla.
He is pretty awesome. He wasn't wearing like a championship shirt. It was instead one like thanking God for all of like what he's given him. I'm like, oh man, he just like he is just all he like. I haven't seen him smile since they've won. He's just talked about like how they did it. He's like, yep.
That next season
before they won, did you see like where like he got asked like, oh, how the Celtics are villains, and he like went, aren't we all? And the reporter went, pardon? He went, we're all villains in someone's eyes. I was like,
not wrong.
It's a good point, Joe. Yeah, it's a good point. All right, well, yeah, we'll see what the Celtics maybe do next year, but there's your finals talk. Congrats to Boston, banner number 18.
I'm
Next.
like no capping. He's the main bird.
Shiniest main bird of the week. Kenny.
We've had Roosh on the show before. He's a Rockets reporter, Rockets blogger. He does everything Rockets, podcast, insider, analyst. And Roosh is awesome. He came on, talked some of the NBA with us when we were still on the radio. Gave us cool kind of stories about his life before sports and reporting on sports when he was a rapper. And, you know, Kendrick Lamar and Jack can give us a little bit more information about this because not really well versed in the rap world. But he posted this yet today on Thursday when we're recording from the vault. I opened for Kendrick's first show ever in Texas when he was touring off Overly Dedicated. And I think this is just awesome. It's a photo of him dapping up Kendrick Lamar. And now Kendrick Lamar is one of the biggest rappers in the world. And Roosh is one of the biggest Rockets reporters in the world. So you choose which path you want. I think I would go with Roosh because, I mean, Roosh is just awesome.
Yeah, his life has been fascinating to me. This is sick. Kendrick, Roosh posted this because Kendrick did his he did a show last night where I think it was just called like a pop-out show at the Kia Forum in LA. Had, you know, sang all the songs, sang all of the diss tracks about Drake. Had a really cool moment at the end of the show. There was a bunch of celebrities there. I know Russell Westbrook was on stage at one point. I know Tyler, the Creator, Dr. Dre, they both performed. So it was a cool show. If you haven't seen the clips of it, you should go look it up if you're into rap at all. So that's why Roosh posted this photo was on Wednesday night. But yeah, he lives a sick life, Kenny. Roosh does.
Yeah.
That's pretty dope to say you opened for Kendrick's first show ever in Texas. And now he's doing this. Sang Not Like Us 5 times, which is just very, very funny. What that
What's the connection to a bird?
He's just fly.
Roosh.
I tried to find one. I don't know where Roosh went to high school. Actually, I'll look it up right now.
Okay.
You think that's
Kenny's
just readily
I like
available
that Kenny's so he's so.
I think he told me once. That's why.
I like that Kenny gets into just internet research. You know, when we have a quick fact, he's our resident fact checker. In the meantime, Peyton, what's your main bird of the week?
My main bird of the week is, sadly, as soon as Kenny switches the photo here, going to be Yan Gomes, the Cubs, long time, and by that I mean like 2.5 seasons, catcher. If you're looking for a bird connection, he used to be a Blue Jay, Toronto. Yeah, Yan Gomes, he was a fun player for the Cubs. It was kind of hurting for birds, so I went ahead and went with him. If you're a baseball fan, you probably, when you hear the name Yan Gomes, you're like, oh, Yan Gomes. Yeah, like fondly. He's a fun player, but he was struggling this year, and now he has been set free by the Chicago Cubs. So fly away.
That just means DFA'd, by the way.
Yeah, he was designated for assignment. It was sad. I felt bad for Yan.
Unfortunate. So he hadn't been playing well?
No, he had not been playing well. It's a shame. Father Time is undefeated, and unfortunately, his next
not for
matchup
LeBron.
is Yan Gomes.
My king will play forever. Yeah.
Kenny, did you find Roosh's high school?
Yeah, I knew this one. That's why I remember it. He went to Katy Taylor, which is not far away from where I live. And the connection is they are the Mustangs, but they have an NFL alumni named Philip Supernaw who played for the Ravens in 2014. Raven is
that's a good one. Philip Supernaw, yeah.
Wow. Nice. Sorry about
There you
Young
go.
Gomes, Peyton.
It's okay.
Are the
Thomas
Cubs
Nito
4-2?
rocks. Sorry, Tomas Nito rocks.
I like Tomas Nito, so
He's cool.
had to be done.
He's pointing to the heavens.
Is that who they called up?
It's
They
in the tweet.
signed him.
Oh. Nice. Or signed him. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
No. Are the Cubs doing any better, Peyton? Are their fortunes going to turn
No.
around?
Let's move on.
All right. My main bird of the week, we're going to the NFL. I'm giving it to Kyler Murray. So Kyler Murray, there's this TikTok. I guess he was doing one of those trends where like you have the filters that pulls up different teams. They have it all sort. I'm not on TikTok, so I don't know. But he had this filter. He, I guess, was assigning different colleges to the best. It looks like parties, academic school, baseball school, basketball school, and football school. And it was whatever random school he got, he would assign to one. He was down to the football school, and it came up as Arkansas. And so he immediately saw Arkansas football, and he audibly just goes, "That's terrible." So Kyler Murray, shout out to you. You have jumped up my favorite quarterbacks list significantly. Called Arkansas football terrible, right to their faces. Darius Robinson is going to love his new teammate in Arizona. Short King Kyler Murray. For if you're curious, he had Houston best basketball school, Texas best baseball, Georgia Tech best academics, Wisconsin best parties. But the main thing is that he called Arkansas terrible.
Gotta watch this whole video. It's hilarious.
Okay,
he immediately gets like Georgia Tech, and he's like, are they smart? And like he just clicks academics, and then like Wisconsin, like he gets it, and he like does like a smirk when he picks parties. He gets kind of like bent out of shape that he has to do Texas for baseball. He was like, I don't really want to put this anywhere. Of course, he went to two schools that consider Texas a rival,
Sure.
and at U of H, of course, he just went straight basketball, and then he ended up going football for Arkansas.
Hey, at least
he's been doing these. He does these a lot. Like he'll sit in his car after a workout and do them.
At least he nailed like Georgia Tech. It's an unfortunate look for them where he's like, I don't know what they're good at, but at least they are actually good at academics. So
Yeah.
he got that part of it right. But yeah, Arkansas football, terrible. Kyler Murray, A+ analysis.
It's almost not even fun to make fun of Arkansas football anymore because everybody just knows. Almost not
Look
fun
at the
anymore.
look of disgust that comes across his
Yeah.
face. when he sees
I would
it.
be too. I would be completely upset with that.
It would have
You
been a
know
good
why?
list if he wasn't biased. I mean, he could have put UT at football and Arkansas at baseball.
Yeah, and he'd
Sure.
still probably not have a good baseball team considering they didn't make it out of regionals. Oh well.
Owned. Yeah, there's my main bird. Congrats, Kyler. I hope you throw a lot of interceptions against Seahawks this year, but I'm glad you think Arkansas is terrible. All right, best things you learned. Peyton, what did you learn?
Best thing I learned this week: Josh Gray's nickname is Horse. So if you didn't see, Mizzou did one of those behind the scenes, like as guys come in or out of practice, they ask you like a question. A lot of NFL teams do this, I know, but Mizzou did it with the basketball players for summer practice. They asked who in the program has made the best first impression on you and why. And I don't know what was going on. Guys just did not like do well with this question. A few guys came in and were immediately like, okay, like just gave their answer. But Josh Gray, he like totally was stealing the show in this video. I believe Tamar Bates said horse. And then I realized like who's Horse? And then I realized more people were calling him Horse. Josh Gray's nickname is Horse. And I looked up more about this. It's because Josh Gray was wearing like a plastic horse mask when he was at South Carolina. I forget the exact story. I'd have to look
It's
at
like
it
the
again.
Eagles. It's like the dog
Yeah.
mask, but just with a horse.
Exactly. But he totally like his personality shines in this video. You can see him messing with dudes in the background. He just pops in and just eats a chip right in front of the camera. Also, a little bonus here. Dickie Nutt shows up in the video. He's looking good. He's walking around. He's messing with the guys at practice. So, yeah, I don't know, man. Like we needed more of this after last season. We didn't get any of these kind of personality videos that like just show kind of what these guys are like off the court. So I'm glad they did this. Yeah, that's basically it.
Shout out to Tamar Bates with his gallon jug of water, hydrated.
Yeah, he's ready to work, man.
Gotta respect it. Yeah, this is hilarious. I think so. That the clip right here is that Anar Boateng? I wasn't sure. I'm still getting.
I wasn't
confused
sure
with faces.
a few of them because I still
think
got to
it-
get all the
I think it was whoever it was hilarious because he did the whole like, well, "What's up, YouTube guys? We're back here with another." Like a couple of them did that, which I thought this team's got some personality. Peyton Marshall is also going to be a very funny human being, I think, on this team.
Yeah,
He's like my guy Trey
big
Gomillion.
human. Look how tall he is. He doesn't even fit in the frame.
His shirt too is crazy in this. I saw that and I was like, wow. Yeah, I'm excited for this team. I think yeah, you got to bring some Sternberg scoop form segments back. Give him some aura.
It was missing last year.
Yeah, sure was. Kenny, what'd you learn?
That Josh Gray like just panning into the video and just like eating an apple or whatever it is so
I don't know what it was. It looked like a Ruffles or something. I wasn't for sure.
It'd be funny if it was an apple. Because
if you're watching on YouTube,
don't horses like apples? Is that a thing?
Yeah, horses do like apples. Maybe that's why. That's why I kind of thought it was something like that.
That's why I got the nickname. Yeah, I like this Mizzou team. All right, Kenny, what'd you learn?
Best thing I learned this week. This is kind of a long one. It's an interesting one. I went to a Mizzou alumni event this past week in Houston, and it was hosted by the business school, more of just, looking for donations. I don't know how I ended up on this email list, but it still went. It was a good time. There was a spokesperson from the Mizzou Athletics and the Tiger Fund, and I feel like it was a little bit better just to leave them unnamed just for this kind of stuff. And I know it was public facing what they were saying, but just for the betterment of it. And they kind of talked about, where Mizzou Athletics was going. We're excited about the renderings, excited about the basketball team having a lot more talent. That was a big thing they kept mentioning, talents moving forward for this next season. And they were saying, they can admit it that, there was some good players last year. It wasn't the same level of Dennis Gates' first season, and maybe they thought there was going to be a lot of more, a higher ceiling for some of those players. Ended up not working out. Mentioned a little bit of the injuries, but one thing I did take away from it is that they talked about the new indoor facility, opened up the old indoor facility for the baseball and softball teams. And if you've listened to us for quite a few months or even years now, we've talked to Pete Zimmerman before, a former Mizzou baseball player, and he's talked about it, how the SEC, in terms of the SEC, Mizzou baseball is very behind. Having the indoor facility is good for some of those winter months to get on the cages and take ground balls while they're in there. But for the most part, Taylor Stadium is behind the times. And I thought this was a little bit interesting that there is no true plan that they had for Mizzou baseball moving forward. It was kind of just, where do they see NIL? Where do they see some of these non-revenue sports moving forward in the future? Because, it's safe to say the basketball team and the football team, they do make money that benefits some of the other sports. But for baseball, it was like there was just nothing set in stone kind of moving forward. And, we talked about it. They don't have a turf outfield like some of these other SEC programs do. And the stadium is not as big as some of these other SEC stadiums. Even like ACC and Big 12 schools have bigger stadiums and more seating. So that's what I kind of took from that. It doesn't sound, that great kind of moving forward. But it seems like they're in a better direction under Carrick Jackson, and getting guys like Max Scherzer more involved too. And it's one of his first times back at Mizzou was for that Kansas basketball game. But it's just like another guy like Ian Kinsler, I'll throw out there as well. Him being involved was a good thing, but moving forward, it doesn't really sound like there's a true plan in place.
It's kind of a bit of a scary time if you're not involved with the football or basketball programs, not just at Mizzou, but any school really, because now with like the whole the lawsuit that just happened that ruled like players kind of have to be compensated. A lot of things are going to change. There's the whole thing with, even in football, like coaches are very, very, very concerned that it looks like walk-ons are going to be eliminated. That's going to be turning into a big deal. There's a lot of fear at a lot of schools, especially smaller schools. A lot of these non-revenue sports there's going to be a few of them that get cut. I don't think that's going to happen at Mizzou. And I know Kenny and I talked about this after, like, just off air, like after he went to this event. Like, I think they said something about hoping that football winds up just being in this big boom period, so it helps just kind of grow the revenue for these other sports, and hopefully that leads to more for Taylor Stadium. But it is kind of, it does suck to see that Taylor Stadium doesn't have a whole lot like in the near future for them. You'd like to see Mizzou at least be a little more competitive in that department. It's at the end of the day, baseball isn't going to be a priority for Mizzou when you have the Royals on one side of the state and the Cardinals on the other. That's just going to suck up a lot of people's attention baseball wise. But you would still like to see Mizzou at least try and throw a few elbows in there, like just get better facilities. But I mean, hopefully football and basketball, some of that stuff can, if they make enough money, hopefully that can maybe help out the baseball program a bit.
Yeah, the trickle down. I see what you're saying with maybe that with football and how it leads to some more benefits for the rest of the programs. Yeah, I think you guys both make a good point. It is kind of a scary time for some of these non-revs and like what's going to happen. I can't even imagine being an athlete thinking about that right now. And obviously I think a lot of the national attention gets ignored because, we're all just focused on like, all right, well, how is it going to affect football and walk-ons and the status of players there and stuff like that and recruiting. But yeah, there's a lot more that goes into this. So, yeah, that's Kenny. This is the worst thing you learned. This is the best thing you learned.
Yeah, I know.
No,
it was more
good
just like
information.
I had some other things I wanted to add into it as well.
Yeah, no.
They mentioned with I think we all know this as well. The softball stadium. There was a donation that helped build that stadium, and the guy who was giving the speech about just Mizzou athletics mentioned he was like, "Hey, if a donation hits the table for the baseball program, they'll do it. It's just there's just not enough money in the works that." With the things they're doing in Memorial Stadium, other things that they're trying to revamp at Mizzou over the next 5 years, it just doesn't really fit into the equation. They didn't seem like they had any plans. And it's not like, Mizzou baseball doesn't have like good players that come through there. Sometimes they just can't hold on to them. There's changing of the guard, Carrick Jackson taking over as the head coach of the baseball program. But Dalton Bargo, who hit like 2 home runs in a super regional game, and was on Mizzou's team last year, is now playing in the Men's College World Series. Like he's in the final with Tennessee. Yeah. There's good players that come through there. It's just about holding on to them. And if there's guys out there that want to start their freshman season, it's been a big conversation for all Mizzou sports, especially on the football side. We talked about freshmen starting at wide receiver, starting on the defense. Do the same about baseball, basketball. It's an SEC program, and there's opportunities there. It's just about holding on to those guys. Another thing I want to talk about, one of like the big donors for the I think Mizzou athletics in general, and he's very close with Dennis Gates and the basketball program. He mentioned that after the South Carolina game this past year, they had to get Dennis Gates and Kyle Smith-Peters back to Missouri to watch a recruit, either at a showcase or a high school game in St. Louis. And it was pretty cool that he kind of did like this breakdown of how they watched every single second of the basketball game that they just lost on the plane ride back, and were taking screenshots of like every single play and writing on them and texting them to the players. And like sometimes you never hear about like the behind the scenes of how that stuff works and how like the coaching works after a game, but it was like immediate. They were going and just taking notes on every single play of the game and sending it to the players, and the players on their flight back to Columbia had all this information to study before the next game. Of course, didn't really work out in the end, but it's still really cool to hear that kind of coaching side behind the scenes.
Yeah, I want to know what recruit he was going back. And so this was after the game at South Carolina, right? Not South Carolina at Mizzou.
Correct. That's why the donor mentioned that he had to fly Dennis Gates back on his plane.
Right. That is
flew back on my plane.
Yeah, no, I don't doubt that Dennis
Flex.
Gates is very dedicated to his craft. There's no doubt about that in my mind. I really, really do hope the team this year is like substantially better, so we don't have to have any more of those kind of queasy conversations about, do you maybe is his job in jeopardy or something like that.
Yeah, I like Dennis. I mean, he's been very open about how he says he watches every game like 4 or 5 times right afterward. So we'll see what happens there. The other thing I'll throw in to this is just, I think it's interesting, when we talk about like stadium investment, I think where I would like to see this money go, especially for some of these other programs like baseball, is like, and I think this will help with player retention too. You got to give it to, I think, the facilities first. I think, you have to understand, like, yes, the stadiums where fans go, they don't want to sit in a crappy stadium. Of course not. Like, they want a good aesthetic for their team to show off. But like, I think where it has to go first, if you're going to start taking steps, especially with what it sounds like, how far behind the baseball program is you have to invest in the areas where these players are spending, the majority of their time. They're not practicing every day in Taylor Stadium. They're not working out every day in there. Like, I don't know. I feel like let's make sure these athletes have good like workout facilities and practice facilities and recovery stuff in order. I feel like that'll go well, like a long way to keeping them, one, keeping them healthy. It leads to better results on the field. That then leads to those players staying, and then it kind of builds there. I don't know. That's like I feel like where I'd want to see the investment go off the bat before we're talking about building some big grandstand for fans and stuff like that. Because I mean, who cares about playing in a beautiful stadium if the product isn't there? You got to get the product there first. But we'll see.
It's hard for Mizzou just in general because Mizzou has, and it's kind of why they'll always have like decently ranked recruiting classes for baseball. It is legitimately like the SEC and then kind of the ACC and then everybody else in college baseball. I mean, that is like you can literally go into a recruit's house and say you can play in the SEC, and that itself will go a long way, most likely. But other than that, I mean, Mizzou does not right now offer much of anything else over any SEC program. Other than, like Kenny mentioned, you might be able to play faster. So Mizzou's just way behind. They were never, ever, ever going to be in a good spot, the baseball program, with the move from the Big 12 to the SEC. But they have just fallen more and more behind because it's like we mentioned, there's just not a whole ton of investment. And it's kind of sad. Hopefully a donor comes through and can kind of get the ball rolling on that. But for now, it's just gonna kind of be left in the dust.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. We'll see what happens with the future. I have a proposal to make a way that this program can make some more money, maybe reinvestment to the baseball program, and that's sell more beer. And that's my best thing I learned this week. Good transition. Not really, but my best thing I learned goes to beer. Very fitting if you know who I am, but beer. There was a graphic release that is the price of beer at every college football stadium in 2023. Mizzou was at $9, which a little bit closer to the middle. It says the NCAA average is $8.34, and the high was Tennessee, $13 for a beer at the stadium.
Rocky flop.
Low, what?
Rocky flop.
The low, which every college should emulate. I know Gabe Diarman tweeted that. TCU and Tulane, $3 for a beer. Must be some trash beer, or it's not in a very big cup. But
$3 for beer at TCU is kind of funny. We've been at that stadium. Well, you haven't, Jack, but Kenny and I have.
Kenny, did you pay $3 for beer? Can you confirm?
No, it was definitely not $3.
So this graphic's lying.
It also wasn't a TCU game.
Yeah,
it's true. The prices got changed.
Yeah.
NCAA nice stadium though. I'm on Carter.
I just thought this was fun. Had a good quote too from Gabe. They're selling beer at more and more stadiums nowadays. I know Mizzou, that was a big thing during our time there, was they started selling beer at Furrow.
I think it was our freshman year, 2019 was the first year they started selling it.
Yeah. There you go. Beer, $9 if you want one at Furrow. Tell us in 2024 if that's still true, if it went up or went down.
Now, there's two ways you can look at this graph, because right above Mizzou at $10 is Arkansas, and right below Mizzou is $8.50 Oklahoma. So you can play both angles here. You can say, oh, look at Arkansas charging more for their beer. Oh, how sad. What a sad program. Or you can do that with Oklahoma for having to sell their beers so cheap to get people to go to their games, because obviously people aren't going to Oklahoma.
50 cents cheaper.
Yeah. But no, I don't really. I'm not obviously too invested in this, but it is interesting.
I like graphics. I see graphic, especially about beer. So
this is so hardly a graphic. It's literally there's no real
Why aren't we having Hayes Fawcett make the beer in the stadium graphics? All right, there you go. That's my best thing I learned. I didn't learn too much this week. I was too busy drinking beer. Just kidding. All right. Let's finish the show. Peyton, do you have a joke?
I sure do, Jack. This one comes from our favorite TV series, The Today Show, as I stifle a cough. Guys, what's the best air to breathe if you want to be rich? Don't overthink it. The best
Rich air.
Oh, you're so close, Kenny. But think of who's rich. Who's rich? What type of people are rich?
$1 million air. Free air.
Oh, dude,
Millionaire.
Millionaire. Yes, there you go. You handed him the keys, Kenny. Oh, good job.
Salah
Good job, Jack.
Jam.
Mhm.
Stolen.
That's
That
it.
was like a block. That was like blocked by Iguodala or blocked by James, not blocked by Iguodala.
I passed it out.
Yeah. Rebound Bosch. All right. Hope everyone enjoyed. We'll be back. We'll probably have a recap, hopefully some commits to talk about coming out of this Mizzou official visit weekend and some other, national sports stuff as well. Until then, hope everyone enjoyed the show. We'll see you on Monday.